Ethan Drake built empires with contracts, mergers, and late-night boardroom battles. He was the kind of man who could snap a pen in his hand and still smile for the press afterward. But family, that was a different frontier, one he had never mastered. When the invite came for the Aspen Tech Summit, he knew the optics mattered. A single-dad CEO looked sympathetic, but not complete. Shareholders liked stability, partners liked the picture of a family man. So Ethan had done what he always did, calculated. He hired Camille, a girlfriend, for the weekend, beautiful in a practiced way, fluent in industry small talk. She'd smile, take his arm, and make the illusion convincing. But his daughter, Lila, wasn't convinced. At 12 years old, she carried a stare sharper than most adults. "Dad," she had said, arms crossed in his glassy penthouse the night before the flight, "you don't need a girlfriend. You need to listen." "Lila, this isn't about feelings," Ethan replied, smoothing his tie. "It's about perception." "Perception is fake," she shot back. "Real is forever. Can I just start forever instead?" He frowned at her phrasing, half dismissing it as childish, half too unnerved to unpack. Start forever. He didn't know what she meant. And then came the flight. The Cessna Citation Excel was sleek, white, humming with quiet confidence. 11 passengers, 2 crew. Leather seats stitched with precision. Ethan sat near the front, Camille glued to his side, scrolling her phone. Investors filled other seats, their voices low with talk of markets and mergers. And then there was Lila, in row 8, by the window. A kid among adults, ignored except for the occasional, "Isn't she cute?" Tossed like crumbs. But Lila didn't look out the window at the drifting clouds. She studied. She noticed the pilots' voices through the thin cockpit door, the subtle vibrations beneath her shoes, the faint nervous laugh Camille gave whenever Ethan mentioned shareholders. She had her backpack at her feet, filled not with dolls, but with notebooks and a handheld radio she'd begged her dad to let her keep. "It's practice," she had said weeks ago. "Someday I'll use it." No one took her seriously. It began as a tremor, a hiccup in the hum of the engines. Most passengers didn't notice at first. Ethan kept talking to Camille about optics. A man in row 4 poured another glass of whiskey. But Lila felt it. The nose tilted. Her stomach flipped. She pressed her hand against the window as if to anchor herself. Then came the sound. A metallic cough, followed by silence. The engines died. The plane dipped sharply. Glasses tumbled. Someone screamed. The intercom crackled, and the captain's voice came, tight with fear. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've lost power to both engines." Attempting restart. Chaos erupted. Investors shouted. Camille clutched Ethan's arm. The cabin tilted again, steep. Row 8 stayed still. Lila's eyes burned with something fierce. The cockpit door burst open. The co-pilot staggered back, pale, his headset askew. He was fumbling with switches, calling into a dead radio. "Both engines are gone. We're gliding," he stammered. Passengers gasped. Someone yelled about their will. Ethan's face turned hollow for the first time in years. He wasn't the CEO anymore. He was just a man about to die. And Lila saw it. She saw how the adults froze, how fear paralyzed them, how the voices of power and money meant nothing against the sky. She unbuckled, walked up the aisle. Every eye followed. "Sweetheart, sit down," Ethan barked, his CEO voice cracking. But she didn't. She went to the cockpit. She picked up the microphone the co-pilot had dropped. "Mayday, Mayday," her small voice said. "Cessna Citation Excel, engines out, 11 souls on board. I repeat, 11 souls." Row 8 reporting. The cabin went silent. Static hissed. Then a voice. "Cessna Citation Excel, this is Denver Center." "Say again. Who is speaking?" Lila swallowed. Her hands shook, but her voice steadied. "This is passenger Lila Drake. Both pilots are incapacitated. We're losing altitude." The co-pilot reached to grab the mic, but his hand was trembling too much. He froze, staring at the kid who had done what he couldn't. The voice came again. "Copy that, Lila. Stay calm. We see you on radar. We're going to get you down." Investors gawked. Camille whispered, "Oh my God." Ethan stood in the aisle, stunned, his daughter glowing in a role no one expected. And in that moment, row 8 was no longer just a seat. It was the command center. The passengers began to change. Fear gave way to awe. A man who had sneered at Lila earlier now whispered, "That kid, she's saving us." Another reached for her hand but stopped, realizing she didn't need comfort, she was the comfort. Camille, the rented girlfriend, broke down in tears. "She's just a child," she said. "No," Ethan whispered, voice thick. "She's not just a child. She's my daughter." For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about shareholders or optics. He was thinking about forever. About the girl who had asked if she could start it. Altitude dropped. Clouds rushed past. Denver Center's voice guided her. "Tell the co-pilot to set flaps 30. Nose 5 degrees up. Keep her steady." Lila relayed every word. Her voice was clear, commanding, echoing through the cabin. The adults obeyed her. The co-pilot, pale and shaking, did as she said. Passengers tightened belts. Ethan gripped the armrest until his knuckles bled, watching his daughter hold the microphone like a sword. For 15 minutes, the Cessna became a classroom, and Lila was the teacher. The lesson: courage doesn't wait for age. And when the runway finally appeared in the distance, a silver strip in the haze, the cabin erupted in sobs. Not of fear this time, of hope. The landing was brutal. Metal screamed. Tires burst. The plane skidded off the runway, nose tilting into grass, but it stopped, whole. Silence fell, then screams, then cheers. People wept and hugged. The co-pilot collapsed in his seat, shaking. And Lila, she put the microphone down gently, like it was glass. She turned to face the cabin, cheeks streaked with tears, but eyes alight. Row 8 wasn't invisible anymore. Ethan pushed through the chaos and knelt before her. For the first time, he didn't see a child he had to protect. He saw a partner. "You started forever," he whispered. And she smiled. The cabin door creaked open, and the smell of scorched rubber drifted in. Emergency vehicles surrounded the crippled Cessna like red and white guardians. Firefighters rushed forward, axes and hoses ready. The passengers stumbled out, blinking in the harsh sunlight. Some were limping, some sobbing, but all alive. Ethan stepped down last, clutching Lila's hand so tightly she could feel his pulse racing through his palm. Camille trailed behind, mascara running, her role forgotten in the roar of sirens. Reporters were already gathering at the edge of the tarmac, cameras zooming, microphones raised. The story had traveled faster than the plane. 11 souls on board, the news ticker screamed on live broadcasts. But the world didn't want numbers. They wanted row 8. "Sir, how did your daughter manage the radio? Lila, can you tell us what it felt like when the engines died? Mr. Drake, were you prepared for this scenario?" The crowd swarmed like bees, and Ethan did what CEOs do, he tried to control it. "Let's focus on safety," he said, shielding Lila with his arm. The pilots. But no one wanted the pilots. The cameras angled down, toward the girl. She stood half hidden, gripping her backpack, overwhelmed. And yet, when one reporter crouched to her level and asked, "What gave you the courage?" she didn't hide. She answered, "I just didn't want forever to end." The words hit like thunder. The crowd hushed. Ethan looked at her as if he were hearing her for the first time. By nightfall, the video was everywhere. A shaky passenger recording of Lila's small hands clutching the microphone, her voice steady as she relayed Denver Center's commands. The internet christened her, the girl in row 8. Clips played on loop. Her Mayday call, her calm instructions, her final smile when the plane stopped. Hashtags bloomed. News anchors marveled. Pilots called her a prodigy. Psychologists debated her composure. But for Ethan, it wasn't the headlines that mattered. It was the flood of comments beneath them. Greater than, "She saved 11 lives. I want my daughter to grow up like her. Kids see forever clearer than we do." For the first time, Ethan wasn't in control of the narrative. His daughter was. 2 weeks later, the board of Drake Technologies convened in their glass skyscraper. Men in suits shuffled papers, murmuring about quarterly reports and brand image. Ethan entered, tie sharp, jaw set. Lila walked beside him, backpack still slung on her shoulder. The directors raised eyebrows. "Mr. Drake," one began, "your daughter's situation has created a surge of attention. Public goodwill is high, but we must be careful." Optics. Ethan interrupted. He glanced at Lila, then back at them. Optics almost killed us. Reality saved us. And reality is sitting right here. The room went still. He had never spoken like this before, unscripted, raw. This company talks about innovation, Ethan continued. But innovation starts with listening to voices we underestimate. My daughter wasn't on payroll. She wasn't a consultant. She wasn't even supposed to matter on that flight. But she saved us all because she believed forever could start now. That's not just optics. That's leadership. Lila's cheeks flushed. For once, Ethan wasn't speaking to impress investors. He was speaking to honor her. And the board knew it. Later that night, Camille met Ethan in the lobby. She was no longer in designer dresses, no longer performing. Just a woman with tired eyes. You don't need me anymore, she said gently. Ethan looked at her, realizing she was right. He had hired her to be an illusion. But reality had stepped out of row 8 and stolen the world's heart. Thank you, he said. She smiled sadly, pressed his hand, and walked away. And for the first time, Ethan didn't feel emptiness in her absence. He felt clarity. A month later, Lila stood on a stage she never asked for. A national aviation conference had invited her as a keynote guest. Behind her, a massive screen played the grainy footage of her Mayday call. The audience was packed. Pilots, journalists, families. Ethan sat in the front row, hands clasped, eyes locked on her. The moderator handed her the mic. Lila, people call you a hero. How do you see yourself? She hesitated, scanning the sea of expectant faces. Then she spoke. I don't think heroes wait for permission. I think heroes just start forever when nobody else will. The room erupted. Applause thundered. Tears streamed down cheeks. Even hardened pilots stood, clapping until their palms stung. And Ethan rose too, clapping the loudest, his pride uncontainable. That night, father and daughter walked home under city lights. Lila's hand was tucked in his, swinging slightly. You did amazing, Ethan said. His voice cracked on the last word. You listened, she replied simply. That's what mattered. He stopped, turned to her. Lila, when you said you wanted to start forever, what did you mean? She looked up, eyes reflecting the neon sky. Forever just means not pretending. Not waiting for tomorrow to be real. It means being who we're supposed to be right now. Ethan swallowed hard. For years, he had built a life on tomorrows, on quarterly projections, on long-term gains. But his daughter had lived what he never could, the power of now. And as they walked on, he knew this was the true beginning. Not of an empire, not of optics, but of forever. Years later, people still tell the story. Not just of the Cessna crash, but of the girl who made a Mayday call when grown men froze. Schools play the footage to teach courage. Pilots nod with respect when her name is mentioned. And in business circles, when someone underestimates a voice at the table, there's a quiet reminder, don't forget row 8. As for Ethan Drake, he no longer hides behind illusions. His daughter is his partner, his compass, his forever. And when strangers stop them on the street and say, you're the girl from row 8, Lila always smiles and replies. No, I'm just the girl who started forever.